All right, welcome to the lecture on aesthetics. If you watched the other videos, the religion videos first, which in theory you should have, you may have noticed that you can start to hear a little bit of fiddle music in the background. That is actually my husband practicing. So I don't know that I should be sorry about that, but enjoy, and hopefully he will continue as we start to talk about art and particularly music. Um, so, Aesthetics, for our purposes, we will just be focusing on art and music in different societies. Let's see. Um, so I'm working on the assumption that you have at least a basic understanding of what art and music are, and moving on from there. Also, you can look at your book's definition if you want more specific to anthropology definitions of those terms. Ethnomusicology is a field within anthropology that studies the connections between music and cultural traditions and societies. So that's what we're looking at in art and music. We're looking at what is the connection between the art and the music, what can that tell us about society? So a bit like what we're looking at with religion and pretty much every other aspect we've talked about in society. For our purposes, aesthetics are perceptions of beauty and taste, which of course vary depending on society. So let's get right in with foraging societies. This is a painting by Indigenous Australian artist Marion Swift called Honey Ant Dreaming. So this is very stylistically indigenous to Australia. So forager art is mostly related to the natural environment. So the subjects will be things like animals, plants, humans, other natural components. Um, there is a religious significance to all art. Nature and spirit are viewed as inseparable. So, of course, if art is focused on nature, then it is also seen as religious. Um, there are many rock paintings with highly symbolic images. That's common. As art is sacred and can be used to contact the supernatural. So, paintings on rock would be used to contact supernatural spirits associated with rocks, things like that. Um, the Inuit made ivory amulets, like you see up here. These are bear head amulets. The You can see the size as well. They're from a museum. Um, the um, Ivory is one of the few rigid materials available in the Arctic. Figures were worn as amulets to enhance supernatural power, and shamans would use masks made of ivory or wood in their rituals to, again, enhance their supernatural power. Forager music, there was both recreational and religious. So because sort of the spirit world infuses the natural world, most things end up being religious in foraging society. So the Mabudi, they had no instruments, but many songs and dances. They had a very precise sense of harmony. And they Men would use songs to the spirit of the rainforest. Um, Again, they had those Alima songs, which we talked about in the religion lecture. The Inuit shamans would again sing songs with drums, repetitive chanting to produce altered states of consciousness. And this video, which again the link will be available to you in the lectures on Blackboard, is an example of an Inuit song with the drum and the sort of chanting methods. Sometimes there might not even be actual words. It would just be repetitive, sort of syllabic chanting, which could again produce that altered state of consciousness. So, among tribal societies, and this is an image of a Kachina Kaltal, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Um, And tribal art has both utilitarian and ceremonial functions. So they would decorate baskets, boats, and other tools, and also use them in ceremonial use art ceremonially. The Pueblo Native Americans from the Southwest, so Arizona, New Mexico, that whole area. The Hopi and Zuni would use art to represent a harmonious balance between humans, nature, and the supernatural. They also create dolls and masks for Kachina called activities. Um, these were spiritual figures that would control the weather, especially rainfall. This was very important if you know anything about the Southwest region. It's very dry and it's very much the desert in most places. Rain would be very important. Um, the Kachina dolls and masks, particularly, were used in dance ceremonies and believed to help produce beneficial weather. Because clay is abundant in the Southwest, they make pottery with complete geometric designs and animal totems. Um, Tribal music. So music varies widely from region to region. Some due to access to materials to make instruments, and some for other cultural reasons. In sub-Saharan Africa, for example, they had many instruments. Various tribes produce a range of instruments: drums, bells, shells, rattles, hand pianos called mbiras. They were played solo or they are played solo or in ensembles with or without voice. Native American tribal music varies as well, primarily percussive, rattles and drums with a single drumstick. Most songs, even recreational ones, are unseparated from sacred rituals. Um, Nearly all music is sung by vocal uh, chorus with extensive use of syllables to create a hypnotic spiritual consciousness. Um, the Here we go. This uh, link will take you to a example of a Kachina cult dance on YouTube. I highly recommend it. You don't have to watch all of these videos, but it's worth it to get sort of an idea. And then if you remember, we talked about the Sami, the reindeer herders. This is an example of their traditional song called a yoik, and I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, so I'm very sorry. But they're both worth a look / listen. Chiefdoms. So chiefdoms, this is an image of a tattooed Marquesas Islander island in the Pacific. They were very much known for their full body tattoos. Chiefdom art and architecture. Chiefdoms had extensive artwork. Again, chiefdoms are typically associated with an abundance of resources, so that allows them to have the time and resources to devote to this type of the scale of art and architecture. So chiefdoms had extensive artwork, a high degree of labor organization allowed this, and they needed status symbols associated with high-ranking chiefs to show off their rank. Let's just skip ahead for a minute. For example, we have the Moai of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. The Cahokia, this is Cahokia, an artist's rendering, and then in the lower right-hand corner, a photograph of a mound from Cahokia. So the Cahokian mounds, flat-topped mounds, were for the capital city and chiefly residences, and conical mounds, mounds that don't have flat tops, that are like cones, were burial mounds. We also have Northwest Coast totem and house poles. These are Tlingit and Haida totem poles and house poles. They symbolize the connection between the chief and the ancestral deities. Sometimes they were put on the beach in front of a new chief's house, and they were also for other purposes like storytelling. And then, of course, Maori Tamoko, or the tattooing of the Marquesas Islander. Tattooing was found widely through Polynesia. So back up here, we see those examples listed. Music in chiefdoms. They exemplified the interconnections among socio-political structure, religion, and art. So they celebrated deities and chiefs. Very important to celebrate both, as chiefs were considered, at the very least, intermediaries between gods, deities, and people. In Polynesia, they had work, recreational, and morning songs. They were all part of daily life. There was then formal music written to honor chiefs and deities. And they also had a particular type of stylized poetry accompanied by body movements and percussive instruments. These were formal poetic chants with narrative songs. If you watch this video, you will find out what I'm talking about, though I'm sure some of you can guess without even watching. But this is an interesting video to let you know a little bit more about that style of dance and music. I hope you find it interesting. In agricultural states, this is a depiction of a woman playing a harp from Egypt, and this, in your upper right-hand corner, is a depiction of a woman playing a harp or lyre from Greece. The art, architecture, and music in agricultural states, they had full-time artists, architects, and musicians, and they had this system called the patronage system. So this allowed artists, architects, and musicians to be supported by wealthy elites. It did mean that they had to work on commission occasionally, which meant that the elites that supported them could tell them what they wanted them to paint or create sometimes. Additionally, they had folk or popular music, and art, which were expressions of peasant or local cultural traditions, and this varied by region. Regions developed characteristic styles of art and architecture. That's why you can easily tell the difference. I'm sure if I hadn't even said that this was from Egypt, you would have an idea that it was from Egypt, and same here with it being from Greece. As far as music goes in agricultural states, there were various styles during different periods, and of course regionally. There was, of course, Greek theater, which mostly involved choruses, but also some instruments. Western Gregorian chant was a religious type of music, and of course Vedic chanting from the India region. These two YouTube videos will give you an example of Western Gregorian chant and Vedic chanting. I don't suggest that you watch the whole videos. They are about an hour long each. With industrial and post-industrial states, this is, a portion of Guernica by Picasso. Art and music. This is where we first really see secular and romantic or passionate styles of art, as opposed to just religious related art. Music reflected this new socioeconomic, political, and secular order that was created by the Industrial Revolution and in post-industrial societies. Orchestras and operas feature secular elements, ideas about equal rights, which again, coming about with industrialization. Wagner even incorporated folk music into classical music, which at the time was a big deal. With the invention of the phonograph and then the radio, in the 20th century, all types of music could reach around the world, and blues and jazz, which is sort of the only truly American style of music from America, became an incredibly important genre worldwide. And it also allowed for some social mobility for the traditionally subjugated African American populations that formed this style of music. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about race and ethnicity in the coming weeks. So again, check out your assignments on Blackboard, and I'll see you next week.